Welcome to the Gen Z Stoic Podcast, episode number 2, New Year's Resolutions. I'm your host, Ren.
I'm your co-host, Mateo Gonzaga.
Let's get right into it.
Let's get into it.
Alright, so we all know it's January, 14th now?
Something like that.
Early in the year. 2 weeks into the new year. Everybody loves New Year's resolutions.
Except for us.
You got me there. I mean, I know we both have New Year's resolutions, but today we're going to talk about New Year's resolutions. We're going to talk about if you embrace them, which we're certainly not judging you if you do. It's always good to improve yourself.
100%.
But some success strategies, some of our New Year's resolutions, and how we kind of view resolutions as a bit silly through a Stoic lens.
Yeah, and ultimately just how a resolution can be misconstrued and how it can be somewhat of an illusion and how we go about setting New Year's resolutions.
Well, and I certainly also want to go over some of the marketing behind it. I think that's interesting.
Agreed.
That'd be interesting. Planet Fitness, man.
Whew. Many corporations. Well, I want to know, honestly.
Planet Fitness.
I want to know what your resolutions are, personally.
So number one, my ultimate goal, sleep habits. Sleep habits are so important. They are
This is true.
Literally the foundation for your every waking moment. Yeah. And so I historically have been a night owl. I've been someone who stays up till 2, sleeps in until noon. And while you certainly can still be productive that way, the reality is that as you enter the adult world like we are, businesses are halfway through their day if you wake up at noon. Like people, if you're a night owl, people aren't going to text you.
The Rock has been awake for like 8 hours already.
You know, some of the big time people, David Goggins, like he's been up since 10 hours. Like
shout out David Goggins.
Yeah. So for me, and that's all encompassing. So I've meditation falls under that. Meditating before bed, writing my thoughts down before bed, trying to reduce my screen time before bed.
You're a big journaler?
Not really. I've been getting into it, and honestly, I've done it because I am trying to fulfill my resolutions, but I don't necessarily see the value in it. I know there's a lot of things that have been done that say that there's value behind it. I'm not a big journaler because I'm somebody who talks to themselves, not like writes down their thoughts.
Fair enough. To each their own.
Right.
I mean,
so we've got the groundwork before bed, and then I definitely want to shout out Andrew Huberman. If you don't listen to any of his work or read any of his work, Huberman Lab podcast certainly has been a big influence on me. He talks about a lot. He's a psychologist, so there's a lot of cognitive psychology that goes on his podcast, but there's also a lot of talk about sleep, and so I'm modeling it off of a lot of what he says, obviously, which, pros and cons to that. I've read a lot of studies. So I'm trying to reduce screen time. I think it's pretty much common knowledge now that screens are bad for you before bed. They disrupt your circadian rhythm. They tell your body and your brain that it's not time for sleep with the blue light that's emanated.
The blue light, exactly.
So I've been trying to eliminate screen time for 30 minutes to an hour. Starting out with a realistic goal before bed.
And that's 30 minutes an hour per day? Or
no, 30 minutes
before
so
bed?
I don't see it before bed.
Got it. Makes sense. I figured.
And then I know I texted you about this. I was thinking about buying blackout curtains. They're very expensive, so
they are.
But that would be something that would be going towards attaining my goal. So we'll have to see if I can afford that.
I would say they're an investment for your health and for your sleep. So.
Because they definitely help with circadian rhythm. And then also an interesting thing that people don't think about is caffeine intake and screen time after you wake up. So that's obviously I've been working before bed, but also after. It's a lot better to go outside and get natural sunlight before you even look at any device, any screen.
Right.
Which has been really hard for me. That's been a bad habit.
And I don't think it's just you. I think that's a lot of teenagers nowadays, for sure.
And I don't think people realize that, which is why I'm trying to kind of raise awareness about that.
For sure.
Again, Huberman Lab, check it out, man. It's so great. But between that, if you take showers in the morning, certainly nothing wrong with a hot shower, but there's proven benefits to taking a cold shower and getting cold water in your neck area, base of your brain. In the morning, it stimulates you, and then caffeine intake, like I said.
Right.
So all-encompassing sleep habits have been my number one goal, and we can certainly go over more, but I would like to hear more about yours.
Mine, well, I'm honored. Thank you. A big one for me is reading one book per month, and the reason I say this is books are millennia of knowledge compiled into writing. That's beautiful.
Right.
That's such an amazing thing that we have, and that humans have had for hundreds and thousands of years. And the reason I want to read a book per month is reading helps with not only just your knowledge base in general, but it helps with speaking. It helps with your fluency when you're having conversations. And for me, that's always been a big thing. I've always been afraid of public speaking, and I've always been very nervous. I stutter a fair amount when I used to speak in public, but reading in general has so many benefits that I'm sure Andrew Huberman has talked about, and that Stoics have talked about how reading is very important. Another thing that I want to shout out, some of you may have heard of him, some may not. His name's Iman Gaji, and I believe he's in his very early 20s, and he does something called monk mode. And so one of my resolutions this year is to do a complete 4 months of strict monk mode. And monk mode essentially is, if you've ever heard of 75 hard, it's almost like 75 hard, except, in my opinion, more realistic. You see, with 75 hard, if you fail, you have to start over again. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that builds a mindset of working for perfection instead of consistency. With monk mode, it's very simple. You set 5 or 6 non-negotiables for yourself. 5 or 6 things that you're going to do every day. If you mess up one day, you just try it again the next day, and you just keep working on that consistency. So again, with you saying meditation as well, that's also a big part of my resolution, is to focus on my spirituality this year and tapping into my inner conscience and expanding my awareness of knowledge and information and topics that are going on in the current world.
Right. And I think we go into meditation. I have an unconventional meditation method, wouldn't you say? A little bit?
I would agree. And
it's not going to be backed up by an academic source, but I swear to you, if you meditate to the Halo theme music, I swear, especially if you played Halo as a child, because meditation is supposed to, you either clear your mind or like you tap into a place that like fulfills you.
A meditative state.
Right. And for me, early childhood was that. Later childhood, not so much. But like my days of killing everybody in Halo and being the best on the on the little Xbox 360, like that takes me back to a good time.
Right.
And so outside of the fact that like the Halo theme music is ethereal, which is completely unrelated, but like it's monks singing. Like,
it is monks. This is true.
So it's both ethereal and it takes me back to a good place. So that just goes to show, I mean, I'm not really advocating for that. That's just how I get my meditation in. But meditation can take many forms, and so it's just about finding a form that works for you.
Meditation is different for everybody, and I'm going to also shout out another person, but his name's Alex Sedlak, and I've taken a few of his personal development courses, and one thing when he talks about meditation is the meditative state being different. For me, I use a variety of different frequencies when I meditate. For certain things, one is anxiety healing, one is manifestation, etc. Right. And for me, I believe in the power of energy transferring and energy being in absolutely everything.
Right.
Therefore, I guess meditation is a placebo for yourself. If you believe in something, you're going to feel the effects of it. Or if you believe that your body can achieve something, your mind will follow.
Right. Off topic, do you ever lucid dream?
I can't say I have. In a lucid dream, correct me, that's a very real feeling dream, realer than usual. It's basically
how I analyze it in this. I could be wrong, but it's basically like a choose your own adventure book, but it's your own dream.
I don't think I was aware of lucid dreams until very recently, so if I have had one, I don't know if I can tell you.
Well, so the reason I ask is I think lucid dreaming and manifestation are closely tied together. Because if you watch videos on like, how to lucid dream, first of all, I don't think they're really true. But second of all, like they all talk about you have to manifest that. So I was just curious if you being into manifestation was interested in lucid dreaming or had ever experienced that.
I've definitely heard of it. I can't say it's been something that I've explored very heavily. But I think with manifestation, it's just a transfer of energies between you and everything else around you ultimately, but also you're telling yourself that you're going to do the right things. I think that also comes from me praying to God. I'm asking him for strength. If I were to ask him for strength for something, I'll do that, but then I'm going to follow up and do actions to get me there, if that makes sense.
Right.
Not to. This is saving it for another episode, but
that's gonna be a fun one. So I think now you've largely been off social media before this new year, right?
Correct. So in 2022, I deleted Snapchat in about June, and then I got it back for about like 2 or 3 weeks in December because I was craving.
Yeah, I remember that.
Dopamine from something, and it was the worst decision of my life. It was the worst 2 to 3 weeks of my year, and so I deleted it. And again, I do not have Snapchat. I do not have Instagram currently. Detoxing from dopamine, and I've seen its benefits, but it's definitely a process, and it's hard to go cold turkey with it.
Definitely.
If you're gonna dopamine detox, do not delete everything, because you will relapse.
Yeah, you gotta have a safety valve.
100%. What about you? You deleted social media.
So that's why I brought that up. Is that's one of my goals. I've largely. So I'm somebody who like really struggles with it. Like, I realize how bad it is, right. But then again, like you go throughout life and like the way that life is structured currently, you really do need it. Like in some areas, you feel like you do need it to socialize or to make plans or something because nobody texts anymore. And so I was somebody who would delete Snapchat, and then something would arise with somebody where I needed to get into contact with them, and I didn't have their number.
Fair enough.
So I'd use that. I did use that as an excuse. Like, I will acknowledge, like, while that may have been the situation, it's still an excuse.
Fair enough.
And so for me this year, Snapchat is my problem. I've never had TikTok. My device of choice, if we're talking about social media, is Snapchat, and so I've had it deleted. I deleted it before the new year. I deleted it about the same time you did. Actually,
later, mid-December.
Yeah. And so I've been off of it, and so it was good. I certainly I still left myself an outlet. I didn't leave myself a safety valve in terms of an app, but my outlet was that for the people who talk to me, I gave them my number, and then
right. And that's interesting that you bring that up about nobody texts anymore.
Right.
And the way I viewed it when I deleted it was the high value people that I'm truly trying to attract into my life will text because they understand how toxic. And this is why we get along so well, is because you can understand, and we text all the time over iMessage.
Yeah.
We don't need socials to be fluid, to be
No.
transparent.
Like, I don't want to see somebody's face every 2 seconds. Like, I just
Again, that's what in the previous episode we talked about privacy a little bit, and how if you have instant access to uploading your entire life anytime you want, you're violating your own privacy all the time.
No, and I just think it's funny because nowadays, like, all throughout human history, it's all been like since we've had telephones, it's been like, if you ask somebody for something, you ask them for your number.
Right.
And now it's more mainstream to like, ask them for their Instagram, ask them for their Snapchat.
Right.
And to me, that's weird. Like, even as somebody who's used Snapchat up until like 3 weeks ago and like is very active on social media in the past, like that's still weird to me. Like, I would much rather somebody ask me for my number because I think, like you said, high value people tend to text more because they realize the dangers of social media and they're off
aware.
of it. Yeah. More on average.
Right.
And so, like, to me, like, I would much rather have somebody ask for my number or I give them my number because there's a lot more, like, even though you can see more of a person's life on social media, and I don't know if you feel the same way, I feel that as though you may be able to see their daily life and you see more of them, but because so many little people are on iMessage and texting, that matters more and that feels like more of a connection.
Well, just because you can see more of somebody doesn't mean you're seeing more genuine parts of them.
Right.
I can say this from experience, and I don't know if you can, but I only posted on social media when I was at a very high point. I posted, it's almost like a life reel of highlights is what social media is. You post, and there are definitely creators out there who are vulnerable with their audiences when they're like, I am not doing well.
Right.
And that's a very respectable thing to do.
Mm-hmm. We really appreciate those kind of creators,
it helps you connect with your audience better. But ultimately, social media is just the best parts of people's lives. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to criticize influencers, but in my personal opinion, many influencers are still in that instant gratification, instant dopamine cycle where they are posting all the time, getting all those likes and thought. Then again, that's part of their life. That's how they make money.
Exactly, and I think it only is worsened. Well, for them, it's probably better because they're making money. So
right,
but it only worsens the instant feedback when you're making money off of it.
100%.
And I think that a lot of people talk about how like American kids want to be influencers, and then Chinese kids want to be, scientists or something like that. And I think it's
the stereotypes.
It's
right.
because of that. I think that China regulates TikTok to 1 hour a day for kids. We don't have that regulation in the U.S. I think that social media companies don't really have that value of their consumers, and so they're going to push unhealthy things. And I think that that's why, like, for me, I've tried to pull myself fully out of it, because it's not the people on there. I don't think that's what we're trying to say. It's not the people using social media. It's the algorithms. It's the negative psychological stuff.
It's the
that
people
happens
behind the screen controlling the app, controlling the functionality. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
And
watch The Social Dilemma if you haven't. That is one of my favorite documentaries about social media and the truth behind it. The Social Dilemma. It's on Netflix, I believe. But yeah, that was a big thing.
So that's obviously I prioritize sleep more than that, because sleep is the foundation. But that's also a big thing, and I think that's you see a lot of people are doing that this year.
Prioritizing sleep.
Both prioritizing sleep, but I'm talking about like social media. I feel like a lot of people this year, noticeably to me, are trying to get off of it.
I've seen many people in my life make that shift, so yes, I would agree.
So, and I think that's we talked about in our previous episode that a lot of people are noticing a shift in life, and they're trying to adapt to it. And I think that to me is one of the biggest indicators, is that people are starting to realize, hey, Snapchat may not be the best for me. Instagram may be unrealistic and build up unhealthy habits, so I'm going to pull myself out of it.
And then I feel bad, though, because the people who are on the opposite side of the spectrum, I feel like they're only getting farther down the road of, I need it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's become a part of their life that they almost cannot live without. So
and that's why you need people in your life who are going to pull you out of that. Like, for me, like, you were a model in terms of no social media, because until the 2-week period in December, like, I largely knew you as somebody who didn't have Snapchat, and I think there's a lot of people in my life who are the same way, and so they've kind of helped me.
And again, I'm not perfect. Like I said, I relapsed after 6 months, and it's not about perfection. It's ultimately about consistency, and one little divot in the road, and then you just get back going where you were. So that's just life. That's life in general. There's ups and downs, and you just evolve, and you have to go with the flow.
And I know, to kind of get away from the social media thing, I know you said that you're trying to read one book per month and kind of learn knowledge. So my last resolution that I'd like to talk about is not reading, essentially, but spend 30 minutes a day learning a skill. For me, that's coding this year.
Right. We talked about it.
I'm big into day trading. Anybody who knows me personally knows that I'm going to be on the Mac in class.
Biggest day trader I know, dude.
Yeah. But for me, there's a lot of Python programs out there that help with stock analysis that would be so beneficial. And coding, as we live in a digital age, is so valuable.
Yeah, it's a very valuable skill.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be coding, but something that you are both interested in and provides value in your life. If you spend 30 minutes a day, just 30 minutes a day working on that skill, by the end of the year, think about if you 30 minutes every day, 365 days a year, think about the progress you're going to make in that skill.
Exactly.
Like, you're going to be a master.
Compounding.
You're going to be a master.
The days compound, the minutes compound, and your knowledge is just going to exponentially grow.
And we live in an era where books are a wealth of knowledge, yes, but so is the internet.
Yes, agreed.
And like, you go to YouTube, there's tons of channels that are free and provide you free coding advice. You go to, there are like academic lectures from MIT and Harvard which are free to access on the internet.
Right.
An education that people pay like $60,000, $80,000 a year for is free on the internet.
Agreed. And I would emphasize that it's never been easier to access mass amounts of information to learn.
It's just about motivation. It's about motivation and realizing that if you take the time, 30 minutes a day is nothing. That's like 1/48 of your day. And you spend, you want to spend 8 to 10 hours sleeping, but in the life of a high school or college student, finding 30 minutes, I feel like is pretty reasonable. And I think if you spend those 30 minutes fully focused, we talk about stoicism, doing things with full concentration,
absolute
without
precision,
reluctance,
pure focus.
Then you spend those 30 minutes in that mindset, you're going to become a master of whatever skill you decide you want to tackle this year.
100%. And I'm going off of exactly what you said. I have seen your success in day trading, and so that has influenced me. I'm spending 30 minutes a day learning about day trading in the market and foreign currency exchange. because I've seen your success and I've seen you put in the work and the research for 6 months, and I've seen how you've grown, and that has inspired me to do the same thing. Not because I want to be like you in every way,
No.
but because I want to learn a valuable money-making skill.
Right, and I think for me, I would honestly like to do a whole episode on day trading, but that's another conversation. But for me, if it's not coding, investing is probably like one of the top skills out there to have, because you want to learn how to invest now when you don't have bills piling up and when you
Right.
don't have those large life expenses.
Don't have to pay off loans.
Because
Right.
that if you learn to invest now, especially in the condition that the market's in, where it's like at historic lows, it's the worst
Right.
since 2008, so you have to really work to find stocks that gain you money. If you learn to invest both in that environment and at our age, it'll pay dividends when you are 22, exiting college, and you have a well-paying job,
Right.
because then you know how to invest and you're not going to lose
Yep.
that money, and that puts you ahead of people who are your same age.
100%. I think it's all about, again, finding your purpose. That gives you motivation, and then you excel from there.
Because the stock market, to me, like, you may see like it's a reputable financial institution, it's the backbone, blah 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 blah, but it seems like a game at times. And
Right.
the saying is,
I see the stock market how I see life.
yeah, you say hate the game, don't hate the player, and so if it's a game, take advantage of it.
100%. And if you have knowledge in your field, use your knowledge
Right.
and keep building. I think it's never too late to learn a new skill. Ever.
No.
And that actually, it's funny. The reason we actually never touched on why we think the New Year's resolutions are somewhat of a
Well, I think
silly
we'll,
thing.
We'll touch on that, but
it's never too late to start. If you have a New Year's resolution and you're waiting 2 to 3 weeks, 2 to 3 months to start, you've wasted 2 to 3 months of potential knowledge gain.
right. But going along with that, and I think this is kind of bleeding into our reasons for thinking New Year's resolutions are stupid. Even if you haven't started, start now.
100%.
Start now. Like,
Yep.
sure, that may be 2 to 3 months wasted, but don't dwell on that.
Right.
Start now.
Don't focus on what you could have done. Focus on what you can do now. That's all you. That's all anybody can ask of you. Fun section.
Fun section.
Fun section. Well, again, we would like to announce that we are doing a guest speaker spot giveaway, and how you can enter this giveaway is by subscribing to our YouTube, following our Instagram account, following our TikTok account, and commenting on our Instagram posts and our YouTube episodes, and engaging with our TikTok account, and then we will randomly select a guest speaker and notify you via however you choose. And ultimately, we just want to hear your opinion on our podcast. We want to hear what you have to say.
And we would also love feedback. Like,
Yes.
immensely appreciative of feedback. It can be negative. We really don't care.
Negative, positive, constructive, any feedback that you have, things you would like to see, things you would like to change, please tell us. We're new to this, as well as you, so we would love anything that you have to say.
Because we truly believe in our message, but we don't we don't fully believe in that we're perfect podcasters. So we certainly set up approach like we could do better. But
Right.
that's where you guys come in.
Exactly.
So
Well,
let's get into it.
The topic of today's fun section is Artist of the Week. Musical Artist of the Week. Music, I could not live without music.
No, me neither.
But I want to hear, because we do not know each other's artists. So tell me about your artist, who it is. Explain.
Kanye West.
That's hilarious. And
Just
we're
kidding.
getting canceled just because you said that.
No, we're not. It's a joke. We don't
We don't condone.
No, we don't respect Kanye at this moment. He's take your meds, Kanye. But in reality, fun section. You gotta joke it up a little bit. But artist of the week, Blade. Now, not many people know who Blade is. It's Blade with 2 E's.
I don't know much about Blade. I'm not gonna lie.
Those who know me, those who really know me, will know that I
I know
I love Blade.
I know you love Blade.
But not many people out there know. So let's kind of go over.
Tell me.
Blade is, it's rap, but it's ethereal in a sense, and we can certainly play a sample if you'd like. But he is from Sweden. He's been producing music for about a decade now. It's very, he raps in English, but it's a very thick accent. And Blade, I mean, truly, like, I know it's a cliche to say that music got you through things.
Yeah.
But I discovered Blade through a friend about a year and a half ago. And at that time, I was going through some things like within my household with relationships in my life where like it was tough. And music always in my life, regardless of the situation, has kind of been a fallback for me. And so Blade was something new. Blade, as an artist, is very different from kind of mainstream music.
Okay.
It's kind of that dream rap, like ethereal stuff that a lot of people are doing now, but back a decade ago it wasn't so popular, and so Blade is kind of... And it's also interesting to see his maturation as he's grown older and made more music, but it truly got me through things, and I like the fact that it's not mainstream. I think a lot of people are so ready to brag about, like, oh, I discovered him when he had this many streams or blah, 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 and Blade still doesn't have a lot of streams. Like, he obviously has a large fan base. I've gone to 2 of his concerts that were in Denver, and they were sold out. So there are obviously people out there who like them, but it's not mainstream. Like, not a lot of people will listen to this podcast and know who Blade is, but I encourage you to check it out. And in all honesty, when you listen to Blade for the first time, it kind of sucks. Like, I'm not going to lie. Like, if you don't understand kind of like where it comes from, or like you don't understand like what the message is, and sometimes there isn't even a message, but if you have to re-listen to it, in my opinion. I feel like your first listen, you're like, what is this? This is something I don't want to listen to. Like, this is awful. And then it grows on you until you start realizing, and you like look at the lyrics, and you kind of like just close your eyes and experience the music. I love music that can do that. I love music where it's tranquil and you can close your eyes, and it's a very like grounded in nature kind of beat, stuff like that. And Blade, and a lot of his work matches that to a T. Well, I think we've talked about Blade for long enough.
You want to hear mine?
Of course I do.
Okay, well, if I may borrow this. My artist of the week is Mike. Mike with a period at the end. And he was formerly known as Mike Stud, but he changed his name
I feel like that's a good name change.
To just Mike. His Instagram label is just Mike.
You're going all the way shouting him out.
I am shouting him out, and here's why. The thing about Mike is that I do enjoy his music for the most part. But what gets me about him is not his music, it's his intellect. Mike has a podcast, it's hosted by him. It's called the You Know What I Mean podcast, YNK podcast. I'm just going to shout it out. But he posts clips on his Instagram, and what he talks about is exactly what I have been looking into for the past, 6 months, maybe. I watched his documentary on YouTube. I would recommend it if you haven't. It's where all of his songs are written from an experience in his album The Highs. And he took this trip out to like this cabin, I don't remember where, and he connected with nature. And he was so present with nature, and he was so fulfilled spiritually that it just, in my opinion, this album is amazing. It's called The Highs again. But his music is, I wouldn't classify it as rap. I think he used to produce somewhat of a rap genre of music, but now it's melodic rap, pop country type music, I guess.
It's just versatile.
It's very interesting. I don't know how to describe.
And I don't know how you feel, but I feel like music now is too boxed in. Like, everybody wants to make something like in a category. Right. When just let the music stand as its own.
I 100% agree. I think the best music is music that just is
versatile.
Yes.
If I can, have a rap, pop, country, all on one album, that's the sign of a true great artist, in my opinion.
Fair enough. Yeah. I don't like Kanye, but I feel like his albums offer a lot of.
Well, man.
One of his albums.
You can.
I can't endorse that here.
No, can't even endorse his
but
music.
The thing with Mike is just the things he talks about. He talks about connecting with your internal self spiritually. He talks about making better connections, getting in nature. I will advocate for being in nature 100%. You mentioned before.
We both will.
Getting out in the sun before you do anything. Getting out in the sun in general. The sun is the source of life on our planet. And yet we spend 90% of our day inside.
Well, and I think we've both been influenced. Growing up in Colorado, we're surrounded by nature.
100%.
We are, Rocky Mountains are 30 minutes away.
The entire Western Front is just open nature.
You can, in Colorado, basically, you can drive 20 minutes anywhere and you're in some patch of nature.
Yep.
which is beautiful, and I think that's really influenced us. It certainly influenced me. There's nothing better than an early morning hike. Nothing better.
100%.
Sunrise hike, whew, like there's no topping. Like
been on my fair share of sunrise hikes
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Well, that concludes our fun section for the most part. We're gonna have to cut some of that. Was long.
yeah, I talked about Blade for too long, but it's okay.
It's okay.
We got a short end.
Yeah. So I guess we should jump in now to New Year's resolution through a Stoic lens.
Obviously, gotta look at the Stoics.
Stoic podcast, obviously, but how timeline resolutions. Now let's clarify. Like I said before, waiting until a certain day, a certain period in time to start something, that is what doesn't make sense to me.
No.
What does make sense with a timeline is planning out. That part makes sense. However, waiting, telling yourself that it's only going to work if you start in a certain day, that is where you waste time, and that is where millions of people waste time.
I couldn't agree more, and I think my concerns might go a little bit further in yours with timeline resolutions, because I think it's certainly necessary to have a goal. And you talk about like consistency over perfection. I think that timeline resolutions more than, goal resolutions, have that pass-fail mentality versus if you have a goal,
Fair.
you can work towards it and you're going to be able to take 2 steps back, but you can still move forward.
Fair
versus
enough.
a lot of people, there's the stereotype that, the people who say they want to go to the gym, they get a gym membership for a month and then cancel it.
Right.
And that's, I think, a byproduct of, timeline resolutions.
Right. The reason I say a timeline is useful is I think it provides structure. It's better than just saying, I'm going to do this, but having no plan of how or when you're going to do it. The thing for me is I plan out my day to the best of my ability.
Right.
Now, if I go even a few hours over something, that's okay. But as long as I have some sort of structure in my day,
Yeah.
that is where...
Well, and I'm not arguing against structure. Maybe we just define timeline more. When you put a date on something, I know a lot of people, like popular resolutions are, I'm going to lose X amount of pounds by this date.
Fair enough. Right.
That's not a good mindset, in my opinion, because leave the date off of it, right? Because, maybe that doesn't it could lead to a lack of motivation, but it's a kind of a double-edged sword equation, right? Because if you lack motivation and you don't set a date, maybe you'll never get there. But if you, have motivation but then set a date, maybe you already lose those pounds by a certain date. Maybe you should lose, more, and you're not going to be motivated to work past that. Like you said in the last episode, if you give somebody $7 million, they're going to do up to that task.
Right.
Versus, why wouldn't you always try to continue to grow? Or
and that's that's finding
weight?
your purpose. That's a
Right.
purpose thing. The one thing I would just say is I actually semi-disagree and with what you said about a timeline, removing the day. I think that if you give yourself a set period of time to do something and that you truly want to do it, you will find a way to have it done. My mentor, Alex, he moved to Miami with $20,000 in his bank account. And he said, I'm either going to make it here or I'm not.
Right.
By the end of the month, I will find a way to pay the rent. And he did. And it ultimately comes down to how bad you want something. If you say you want it but you don't, and you set a timeline, and you're just like, oh, it's like you said, it doesn't. It's too practical. It's not giving yourself the ability to truly focus on the task as internal self-development, but more of a result-based goal over action-based goal. But if you truly want something, I think it increases productivity, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no. I'm not debating that. I'm just saying I guess maybe we're just motivated by 2 different things. Like if I'm someone who, if they set a goal with a number to it, it's not a date thing for me. It's I'm going to work as hard as I can to get to that goal as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Which weight's not really a good example to use here. I just came up with that because that's a common.
No, I
resolution.
understand. I understand
But
what you're saying.
if you truly want something, you're going to try and get it as quick as possible. And so I think setting a date allows you some wiggle room when, especially if you look at it through stoicism, wiggle room is not really a valuable thing.
Right. Okay, that's fair. That is definitely with stoicism, I think, and as well as just consistency in general, that with constant evolution, if you're in the mindset that with each waking day you are approaching death quicker, What are you going to do when you are much older and your mind is incapable of learning things the way it used to be?
Yeah, no. Like, we definitely agree. Like, we may disagree on, our definitions of timeline.
I just believe we're motivated in different ways.
Yeah, but we definitely agree that New Year's resolutions are bad because they're pushing self-improvement off to a later date.
100%.
Like, you may be doing terrible things, have bad habits in October of 2022. Right. Why wait until a certain date instead of sitting yourself down and saying, you know what, I don't like X, Y, and Z about myself, and I'm going to start today to change myself.
Exactly. And I'll be honest, I started a lot of my resolutions in December when I truly had just an awakening moment. And we're not saying we're perfect. Nobody is perfect. I am simply not perfect. Again, I relapsed with social media last December. I haven't done every single thing on my New Year's resolution every single day of the year.
No.
But I have done my best to keep it consistent. If I don't do it one day, I make sure I do it the next day. Mm-hmm. It's all about long-term consistency over delayed perfection.
Yeah, no. You definitely harp on consistency, and I couldn't agree more. I think that, you set a date, and it just distracts yourself away from the true goal, which is constant evolution and constant working towards your goals.
Yep.
And, again, it gives you that wiggle room that I despise so much.
Right.
And it's just, if you truly wanted to improve yourself, you would work on it every single day.
Right.
And I think that, like I said, I wanted to talk about marketing. I think that companies realize that people look towards a day and they don't look towards their goals. And so I think that it is really preying when companies, they prey on consumers when, they offer New Year's resolution specials, like gyms and other common places where you see resolutions, they offer those specials. And I think that it incentivizes those people to quit because they're extenuating the circumstances of New Year's resolutions and making it seem like, it's such a great deal.
Right.
And if people come in thinking that, it's New Year, new me versus I really want to get better at something, they lack that motivation. And so when things get hard, they have a hard workout. They have to go through the aching and pain of starting to work out. I know that. So I've been going to the gym a lot. Like I said, with my resolutions, it was sleep habits, and so part of my sleep habits is I'm building myself up to where I can wake up at 5 a.m. every day and work out.
Right.
And we can certainly talk about workout habits, but I have struggled in the past with gym motivation, but I started again in the middle of the year. I started this stuff again in the middle of the year, and the sleep habits have come with time and started, a month ago, 2 months ago. But those people who look towards a date aren't going to be that motivated, and so they're going to fall in the same pitfalls I have, where they're like, this is hard, this isn't worth my time, I have better things I can be doing.
Whereas
it's not such a present issue. Right.
Whereas a Stoic would view it with, this is hard, this will help me grow.
Right.
I will evolve. I will beat this challenge.
The Stoic will look towards the end goal and what this accomplishes for your body and your soul.
Right.
Versus the physical pain or the fact that it's something you're not used to.
Right.
And so it's all about focusing on the end goal instead of focusing on a date.
100%.
I think at the end of the day, and that's why we're kind of against New Year's resolutions. Now, obviously, if you're somebody who lacks motivation, it's better to set a New Year's resolution than to say, I'm not going to do this at all. It's better to do something than nothing. But what we are saying is that for a lot of people, they decide to wait until January 1st, and that's a bad habit to develop.
That's the main point, 100%. And it's interesting that you say it's better if you're lacking motivation. I just think that's an interesting thing because for me, when I first found out about lifting, this was back in January of 2021.
Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, I had been called skinny a lot. Mm-hmm. And so I had that motivation to lift. And for you have had the motivation to be successful in terms of learning these day trading skills, learning these money making skills. I lacked that, and I still do semi lack that. But ultimately, as well, this is a big thing with resolutions, is taking accountability. And that's a big stoicism, is taking accountability for every single action and every single outcome that you endure.
Right.
If you put yourself in the mindset that you are responsible for everything that happens to you. Mm-hmm. And again, if some tragic event happens in your life that you can't control that, but you can control exactly how you react. Your response. But other than things like that, you control everything that happens to you. And if you put all your focus into those things, you will succeed in whatever you're trying to do.
Right. Well, and I think as well, and you certainly bring up an interesting point. Like, I know for a lot of people, like you, like the gym, like you go there and it clicks. Like, it's something that, you know, relieves mental stress, relieves anxiety. Like, it's good.
Yeah.
And then, you know, you're maybe not motivated by day trading. And then there's a lot of people like me who are the opposite. And it does speak to the fact that, like, we are all human, so we all have different motivations. But different in general, it is better to set your goals daily and make a plan when you notice something versus waiting for a date on it.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about in the next episode, which is routines and the importance of daily goal setting in your routine and structure. So,
well, I think
that's all for me.
All right. Went over our resolutions. We got some good resolutions.
So
share your resolutions with us. We're very
comment
interested.
Below. Drop a comment.
What our crowd is interested in achieving this year.
Yeah.
Like we said, one of the strategies is surrounding yourself with people who are working towards the same goals.
Like-minded people.
That you know, there's certain examples of that. I think we both push each other to kind of accomplish our goals,
and we also don't try and compete with each other.
No,
we'd rather see each other succeed than try and be better than one another, and that is so important. There are so many relationships where you say, "Oh, we're pushing each other," but I don't want to see you do better than I'm doing. I want to see you do as well as you can.
Yeah, we want to see all the homies get the bread, you know?
100%.
But like I was saying, you know, comment your resolutions. We all want to see everybody be successful in this community.
Don't procrastinate. Start now.
Right? Start now. If you failed your New Year's resolutions, I know we didn't talk about a lot about how it's a, you know, fail or pass thing, but if you fail your resolutions, pick yourself back up, you know.
Just
talk to somebody.
Keep hammering away. That's all you can do.
You know, one step backward is nothing when you have 5 steps forward to go.
I agree.
Share your resolutions. Thank you for listening to this episode.
Episode 2 of the Gen Z Stoic Podcast, New Year's resolutions. Thank you for listening. Logging off.
Thank you.